So welcome into Chewing the Fat with Peepaw and Mags, Maggot Edits for those that don't know. I refer to her as Mags. Today we're joined by Stardust. Now, Stardust is a creator. She has over almost 13,000 followers on her Twitter account. She's got almost 12,000 followers on or subs on her YouTube channel, and she's got almost 17,000 followers on her Twitch. So by far, Twitch is her largest platform. Stardust, thank you for agreeing to come on the show and be our maiden, um, I guess, guest. So thank
Yeah,
you
the
for that.
first one. She's popping our cherry right now, Peepaw.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been so damn long. I don't know if I have one of those anymore.
Me
Um,
either. I don't know either.
anyway, so all right, just I tell you what I'm going to do. You and I kind of been talking a bit while we was waiting for Max. I'm going to let Mags ask you a few questions. I know she has a couple of things. I'll let her ask you, and then I'll come in kind of after that. So, Maggot, go ahead and kick it off there.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw any of the coverage that me and K-Huck did about like the Hunter Avalon stuff.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. I was just kind of interested to know like more about your relationship with Hunter and how you would describe your relationship with him, I guess, and what you think of his current like everything that he's been doing.
So, I'm friendly with the guy, but I wouldn't say I'm like friends with him. I'm not a huge fan of his debate style, but he's always been like super like nice to me. And he's been around for a while, so I try to give him some leeway. He's not somebody who I know to be like bad faith. At least recently, he hasn't been. Um, He can't I can definitely see, like, why people go after him as much as they do because he can like, yeah, again, his debate style can be kind of obnoxious, um but yeah, I mean, I think with the whole thing with Holly and the other guy, what's his name? Conrad, I think it's just like, an impossible situation, like, you never know when, somebody is going to actually follow through with like threats like that, right? So, yeah, that's just kind of my read on it.
No, I agree. I think that like people saying that they should have left beforehand when they found the trackers and all of that. I think it's ridiculous. If you're with somebody that long, you're not going to assume that they're going to do like something insane
Yeah.
like that. I guess
11 years. Yeah.
yeah, I guess my issue really more is just with Hunter. I personally
Hmm.
feel like he's being kind of an ass, during this whole thing, especially like with his call in with Chud Logic and everything. Um,
Oh, I didn't even see that.
oh,
Yeah.
well, you might wanna watch that one. But, yeah, no, I just feel like Holly is the more level-headed out of the 2, and
Mhm.
that was definitely displayed, during the call with Chud Logic because they were both in the car during that call. Um, I would just prefer if it was her doing all the talking, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Hunter is not the best at like helping himself like PR wise. Even when he was with his ex, I think she was generally better at kind of like handling like PR kind of stuff. I don't know what it is about him. He seems to like consistently like put his foot in his mouth and stuff like that. But as far as like the situation itself, like in the situation with Conrad, like obviously, she was with him for 11 years. He was abusive. She probably didn't think that he was going to show up with a gun and actually try to kill Hunter.
No.
Um, yeah. So,
No, and I think they said actually that he had, like, bought it recently. It wasn't even like
yeah.
yeah, he
Mhm.
didn't own one prior, so it wasn't like she had
Yeah.
any reason to think, he would. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I Do you think that it would have been wise if Hunter would have just waited, like, a couple weeks or a month before he actually talked about it, or do you think it doesn't matter?
So the thing is, I always think that it's better to wait when something like this happens. Because you kind of need to calm down and kind of like get your head in the right space. at the same time, the amount of people who came up with like conspiracy theories about the two of them and Conrad and the whole situation, I can definitely understand where he's coming from, where he feels like he needs to say something before like conspiracies start, even though the conspiracies started anyways, right? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Um,
But the one thing I will say though is like, actually, go ahead, people. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
okay, so I I don't know if you know this. I'm really old Stardust. I mean, I'm like old. Um,
You don't say.
yeah, I do say. So here's the one thing about this whole situation that I cannot grasp, and this is
Hmm.
not necessarily against Hunter or the young lady Holly, I think her name was.
Hmm.
Um, is this incessive need for this younger generations um, to record everything, live stream everything, and just talk about every aspect of your lives and put it out there. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree
I
with
get that.
I agree with your
Hmm.
assessment of waiting, right? But here I would go a step further and say, you know, maybe just not talk about it, period, because um from I've talked very little about this situation because ultimately a person lost their life.
Yeah,
Um, these two young people went through a very horrific, harrowing incident that's going to, I think, logically scar anybody
yeah.
mentally for some time yet to come. But
Hmm.
it came across to me that because there were a few people who started questioning hunters, civilly, or manhood, whatever, right?
Yeah,
He became very defensive, and he started almost grandstanding, beating his chest, like and I think he has said and made some statements that come across very crass about the whole situation, and has almost come across as he's now almost using the situation to gain or garner clout and
mm.
viewership, and I think that does him and the whole situation a disservice. Um,
You mean like when he referred to her as a human meat shield on Twitter? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, things like that. I mean, nobody, it's real easy for me to sit here and say, that I would have, if I was in this situation, it really easy for me to say, I would have put Holly behind me and I would have protected her because I am man, right? That type of thing. But the
Yeah.
bottom line is when you're in a situation like that and you got somebody that is shooting at you, you
Mhm.
don't really know what you're going to do.
No,
Um,
you don't. That's something that I've
yeah,
tried to kind of reiterate to people. Like
yeah,
people like to I think part of it is him kind of responding to other people
yeah,
grandstanding about it and trying to use the situation against him, right?
sure.
Like just like from what I can see, a whole bunch of people replying, calling
Yeah,
him like, a child, calling
yeah,
him accusing him of using her as a shield. And in the reality of this, like he didn't recognize Conrad immediately.
yeah,
It was Holly who recognized him, and it was Holly who realized what was happening. So of course she's going to be quicker to react. But like a lot of people don't know what they're going to do in a life or death situation until they're in that situation. And any planning that you do prior to a life or death situation, all plans go out the window. So when you're actually in the situation, that that lizard brain really kicks in, and your instincts kick in. He could have everybody who's saying they would have like thrown their girlfriend over their back and like ran with her. Like, no, if you don't recognize the guy immediately, you're probably not going to. So
sure.
yeah.
The other thing I'll say is this: is I don't think Hunter and Holly have been together a very long period of time at all.
I think it was
No.
like 4 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
right.
hasn't been long.
So, me saying if somebody came at my wife, who I've been married to for 27 years,
Yeah.
me saying without a shadow of a doubt that I would end anybody who threatened or I perceived as a threat towards my
Yeah.
wife or my family, I could say that unequivocally, and I think that was exactly what would happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, whatever happens to me be damned, but I would do everything I could to protect my family. There are a few people out there, I believe, that they just have it inside of them, and it's just an innate thing that when danger occurs, they run towards it where others run away from it. People like firemen, policemen,
Hmm.
soldiers,
Hmm.
they just have an innate desire to protect others. Now, I'm not saying that Hunter does or does not have that. I don't know. I don't know the man from Adam. Um, but that's what I'm saying. I think in some cases, I think people judged him harshly, and I think they judged him possibly wrongly. But I also say I agree with the sentiment that's been kind of been shared here. I don't think he helped himself um, in the
No,
situation at all.
yeah. He's notoriously bad from everything that I've seen. He's just notoriously bad at like making himself not look like an
Not knowing
asshole.
when
Yeah,
to shut up, not knowing when to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I've seen it happen before in things where he, and this is a situation where he objectively, I feel like, was not in the wrong, you know?
yeah,
And I think it probably would have been pretty easy for him to come out looking the best in this situation. I don't know how he kind of like uh I don't know how this one didn't ended up this way, but like
yeah,
I mean in all honesty, like at the end of the day he may have made himself look really bad. He may have, you know, came off as like a jerk or an asshole. um but it, you know, at the end of the day, the two of these people, they went through something very traumatic. You know, being in an abusive relationship for 11 years is also very traumatic, and then, you
sure,
know, leaving it, you know, usually leaving an abusive relationship is usually when it becomes most dangerous, right?
yeah.
And you never know when somebody's going to escalate like that. So, you know, the two of them, they've seen, they saw the remains of Conrad after he,
yeah,
you know, did
yeah.
himself in. You
That's
know,
yeah.
this is a very, very traumatic situation. So, you know, at the end of the day, I might, you know, have criticisms of the way he handled this publicly, but I feel like I'm still going to be like supportive of like another human being that's been through something really horrible.
And I think that's fair. I really do. I think that's a fair take on it. Kind of staying along the same thread. I don't know who the person was, but you were doing I don't know if you joined their stream or they joined yours. I don't remember the scenario, but you were talking with this other person and uh, um, oh geez, I always get
Beckett,
I always call him bucket of crabs. I know that's not
Beckett.
right,
Okay.
but Beckett
Beckett, yeah.
called, and you guys kind of got a little heated with each other.
Yeah,
Um,
so what happened is I was doing a debate on Killstream against so Ethan Ralph was moderating and it was against
oh
Andrew
Lord,
Wilson. Yeah,
Ethan
and
Ralph.
Andrew Wilson was taking the stance that like, oh, why would you go out and why would you let your girlfriend come out with you to check, you know? And my stance was like, look, like he followed all the protocol. If you look at like what this, there's this Navy SEAL, he put a guide out there on how to handle an active shooter. The way that Hunter and Holly handled the situation is exactly according to protocol, exactly how they're supposed to. And that was kind of like my argument, and kind of came to an impasse where it was like, okay, we're not going to agree, whatever. Andrew said, so we had finished the debate by that point, and Andrew said he wanted to talk to Beckett. And to me, I thought, you know, Beckett and I were friends with the guy, so we just thought like, oh, he wants to say hey, you know,
Hmm.
he wants to say hello to him. So Beckett popped on, and then it turned into this whole thing with Beckett and him going back and forth, and then him asking like, Beckett, would you let Star go out or whatever? You know, and you know, I was saying like, look, I would go out, you know, this is how I think, you know, you go out in groups. And then it was like Beckett saying, well, no, I wouldn't let her go out, you know, and it turned into like a whole thing. Like I was like, look, you can't like, you can't really control me, like, you know, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And then Beckett was like, well, I can. and then so yeah, obviously I got irritated, partly one because like I had just finished this debate with this guy, and
Yeah.
then Beckett and him are like relitigating the entire debate, um which is irritating for me.
Mm.
And then secondly, because like our relationship doesn't function that way. It never has, you know. It's never been the type of relationship where he says something and I do it, or he controls me in any sort of way, right? It's just not something like that. Obviously, I overreacted. But you know, I also kind of played it up on the kill stream. I was playing it up a little bit because Andrew and Ethan thought it was funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happened. So
Because here's the thing, because I've had one or two conversations with Beckett, and he seems like a pretty
yeah,
docile dude, pretty cool.
yeah.
You guys are cool, right? I mean, there was no lasting or long term.
No,
Well,
no,
okay,
we're
yeah,
fine. Yeah,
yeah.
No, just lots of clickbait titles.
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So if Beckett asked you to make him a sandwich, would you make him a sandwich?
No.
I have made him a
Oh
sandwich
God,
before.
just say
Good,
no.
good. No, I look. Okay, here's the deal, right? I know that's like a big thing, right? These, oh, if a man tells a woman make her a sandwich, you make him a sandwich, right? Okay. How about if she asks you to make her sandwich, you make her sandwich, right?
Yeah,
Um, like I said, I don't know how old you are, Star. I don't know. I think maggots are. I've been married longer than maggots even been alive,
I think I
right?
might
hmm,
be older than Stardust, actually.
Okay. So, I'll say this is, um, I definitely think within a relationship there has to be a give and take. Always has to be a give
yeah,
and take.
absolutely. Yeah,
But there also has to be, because relationship, there also has to be a de facto head or leader, right? Um, i- Irrespective, it's like in any organization, right? It's like, I'll give you an example. The podcast that I'm on now, I started the podcast years ago, right? I'm the last remaining original OG founder of the podcast, so I've got a bunch of new people in there, right? And I tell them all,
hmm,
look, you all have equal. I'm not like this, dictator set up here. But by default, they all look at me as the leader, right? That's just kind of
yeah,
how it is, right? There's a and the public perception is that I'm the leader. Okay, that's cool, whatever. But behind the scenes, that's not the truth. Everybody has a voice. Everyone has a vote on things.
hmm,
Majority rules, that type of thing. But when you're looking at it outwardly in, there's always going
yeah,
to be a leader, de facto leader, right? Sometimes
yeah,
that can be the wife, and sometimes that can be the husband, or to put it more modern terms, one of the partners is going to be the perceived boss of the organization or the relationship or whatever, right?
yeah.
So anyway,
I think
I mean,
it's
I think it
easier. Yeah, it's
depends.
easier
The
for people to say because he also is like
Yeah,
in a traditional relationship. He's married and lives
yeah,
with his wife and etc. It
yeah,
is a little
yeah,
bit more difficult when it's like a long distance thing, like with Stardust and
yeah.
Beckett. So, um, you know,
And yeah, and which one of us, like I'm more of a public figure than he is and all of that, right? So like anything that he does is going to like I mean, I've had people already try to use stuff like with Beckett against me or try to use our relationship against me, et cetera, right? Like but yeah, I think for me just in that moment, I was irritated because it felt like I had just had this debate. I think the debate went really well, and then like it felt like my entire debate was getting like overshadowed because now like Beckett and Andrea were relitigating the exact same debate, you know. And it's like we s- you know, that to me is like it, you know, it feels to me um invalidating, you know.
right.
I know Beckett wasn't intending for that, but that's kind of like how it felt for me, right? And so that's kind of like how it was. Yeah. So
okay, all right. So I'm going to try to kind of change gears here a little bit.
mhm.
Um, so I know a little bit. I know that your family kind of had this idea of you becoming, I think it was a doctor, correct? That was kind of like what they kind of wanted you to become, or kind of in that
No,
field.
not really. So not quite. Like, the way that it works in a lot of Indian families is, you have 2 career choices, right?
Mhm.
Doctor or lawyer.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So those are the 2 choices that you have, or engineer,
Mm. Yeah.
For me, I think I had always, like, kind of been studying music from a really young age,
Mhm.
and I think I was, like, 12 when I said that I wanted to really focus on that, and my mom, for her, she freaked out because, she is hearing all these horror stories about, like, girls who pursue non-traditional careers and end
Mm.
up becoming prostitutes and call girls and escorts and all of that, right? She was terrified that I was going to go down that route. And especially for like Indian parents, like
Yeah.
choosing a non-traditional field of study, you have to be really really good at it. You have to prove yourself, right? So
Yeah.
she was not about it. I had to like prove myself for years before she accepted it. And then when I was actually in college and I was actually, studying music, very seriously, and then I would like call her and cry on the phone about how I just wanted to quit, and she would be like, "No, you have to do this."
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's kind of
Okay.
where,
So
yeah.
how do you translate, or how do you start off as going? I would assume when you say studying musician to be like in an orchestra, right? More of that line, right? Not on stage rocking out in front of thousands of
Well,
people.
yeah, so I was trained in classical singing, so
Yeah.
like kind of operatic,
Okay.
classical, so all of that, right? And then also I studied piano from a really young age as well.
Okay.
And yeah, and so it was funny, I did work really hard. I practiced for like hours every day after school, with nobody else like urging me to do so. Like a high schooler. Just imagine like what high schooler willingly like
Yeah.
dedicates like 4 hours every day to practicing, right? Most high schoolers are like, doing God knows what. So yeah, I really did have to really, really focus on it. And then I think she really did start to understand like how dedicated I was. And it's funny because once I went to college, she was like suggesting that I like study jazz instead of
Mm.
like classical singing, right? And
Hmm.
so she kind of pushed me in that direction. And then I ended up going in that direction. So I ended up studying music performance in jazz and contemporary music. So that's kind of where I ended up.
So here's a little bit of a shocker. I was one of those people that practiced several hours every afternoon after school.
Oh, nice.
I was in high
Uh-huh.
school band, and
Yeah,
so I was marching, and jazz, and of
yeah.
course, then I guess you'd call it more of the orchestral band, where we play the
Hmm.
more traditional
Yeah.
type music.
Wait, Peepaw
Mm.
was a band kid. Oh
I
boy.
Oh,
was,
I was in like chorus in high school. So like by the time I was a senior in high school, I
yeah,
was like doing four different choruses. I was like in
yeah,
four separate choruses, and then I was like on top of that doing like hours of practice after
yeah,
school as well.
yeah.
So yeah, it's intense. It's fun though.
It is
So.
it is. I had a lot of some of my more cherished memories, which there's not very few in high school, but was band competitions and doing things with the other students, my friends and stuff that were in the band.
Mhm.
The bus trips to the different competitions, and things like
Yeah.
that. That's some of my more fond memories of, because I was quite tormented in high school. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, so how do you go from that to where you're um, streaming and doing political
Yeah.
debates? Because I
So
the jump there is I'm trying to, you know.
yeah,
Wait,
I
Peepaw,
get
why
that.
why are you like have you not met D-Max?
Well, okay, but D-Max is a little bit different creature. He's in he was a theater kid, and stuff, and so he's about theatrics, and so yeah, it's sensical to me to be doing YouTube videos and streaming and things like that. But from going from being a singer or even a musician to because to being a political debater or Twitch panel, things like that. That's a little bit different, I think. A little bit, maybe. I don't.
Well,
Agree to disagree, I
so
guess.
yeah, I had a focus in music performance, right? So there is still a performance aspect to it, but I mean, there's a lot of preparation that goes into debates. Just like there's a lot of preparation that goes into performing a musical piece for like a show or a recital or something like that. And so it's similar in that aspect, right? You kind of like go over the material beforehand, you study it, um, you put together your arguments, and then when the time comes, then you're ready for it, right? But I guess it like I don't know. To how did I get into politics? I was always like interested in politics. My college that I went to was like a very political school. It was like number two political school in the United States. And uh, and there were like protests like every day on the university campus. so
Yeah.
um and even like there was a protest from the music department one day as well, and that was like it was so funny because all of the poli sci students were like looking at us and they're like, how are the music students having a more loud and more effective protest than any of the poli sci people?
Hello. I
And it was
mean,
like a whole bunch of us like out there with our instruments, and it was so funny. But yeah. Um, so anyways, yeah, I'd always been kind of interested in it. My grandfather was a politician in India.
okay.
Um, yeah, and um he was also kind of like an activist. He like was very much into the Gandhiist movement. He lived like that. He lived the Gandhiist kind of life. He wore like the whole white outfit that was like starched. He was a vegetarian. He was very much for like social welfare, all of that. So I think it kind of part of it like runs in the blood, and then like part of it is just I was always interested, and then I saw other people debating, and I was like, I wonder if I can do that, and so I tried it. But I did start off streaming as a music streamer
Okay.
several years before I got into the politics stuff, and then I took a break from the music stuff because I don't know why a lot of creepy people will show up in your chat
Mm.
when you do music on Twitch. I have no idea why, but so I took a break and then I came back and then I did politics and commentary and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So, so are you do you do it full time? Are you a full time streamer? Is that what you do? I mean,
Pretty
without giving,
much, yeah.
yeah, I don't want to get too much into whatever you're comfortable with, but
I was
Yeah.
gonna say
um,
I'm subbed to her on, YouTube and Twitch, and she's live all the time, like, all
well,
the
yeah,
time.
I know she has very, very long streams, and most of my knowledge from of Stardust comes from clips or things of that nature. Like I was telling her before you were able to get into the call, Mags. She and I had one previous conversation, and it was during this whole era of time where she had several battles with different people within the commentary community.
Mhm.
One of them is one of my co-hosts now, Jessica Pizzle, which, by the way, she said to tell you that she thinks you're very beautiful and pretty. And hang on, what was her exact? Let me get the exact words because I don't want to misspeak here because
That's nice of her.
uh, oh, tell her she goes. Tell her I think she's clean and pretty.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and Seth, who loves all women, says to tell you that she loves you. So,
Oh,
um,
I love her too. I love both of them.
yeah.
So,
So, but anyways, Stardust and I had a conversation. sh- I don't know if it was Matt or Tommy one had set up this agreement with her to come in and debate all comers over. It was the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard nonsense that was going on, and I had some disagreements and disagreed with some of your your takes on the situation.
Mhm.
But we had a very, I thought, cordial, respectful conversation. When it ended, I think we walked away with it pretty much being you were still going to have your thoughts and opinions as they were,
Mhm.
as was I. And the thing of it is there were probably people in the audience that maybe they may have been swayed or moved a little bit by you, or they could have been moved a little bit by by me, whatever. uh, that's what I think is okay, as long as the people are respectful and cordial to each other. But
Mhm.
far too many times, and this is why I got away because I used to be quasi political,
Mhm.
but it got to where people were just too radical, and they wanted to go to war. Everything had to be a war. Every conversation had to be a battle, and they had to win every battle.
Yeah.
And the yelling and shouting and then they get just disrespectful and stuff, and that's why I do not engage in political conversations anymore,
Yeah,
Mhm.
same.
because of that reason. And so but no, anyway, um the last thing I have personally, and this is one of the things that I'm gonna kind of put you on a little bit of a spot here. um Looking through some of your social media and stuff, and I'm sure this is some tongue in cheek on your part. I'll give you that.
Mm.
But you always put out the most unflattering pictures of yourself.
I love
Yeah.
them. I love them.
Yeah, I think
Why?
it's funny. Well, so yeah, one, I think it's funny,
Okay.
and two, two, like anytime somebody who hates me is going to use a picture of me
Yeah.
against me, to
Yeah.
insult me, it's always going to be
Yeah.
something that I myself put out there, which
Okay.
makes it like 10 times funnier to me.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
You're kind of
yeah,
disarming them a little bit, right? I get that.
yeah,
I just want to let you know that I thought you. Um, I think you're a very lovely young lady. I think you carry yourself with quite a bit of grace, with and stuff. I don't agree with a lot of your stances, and that's
uh-huh.
okay. But like I said, at the end of the day, I do think you're an okay person, and I want to thank you for your time today.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate it. Thank you
yeah,
for,
and like
thank
I
you for
said,
that.
I want to be very respectful of your time because I said keep this to an hour. I don't, Mags. Do you have anything else that you would like to talk to Stardust about before we get out of here today?
Hmm. I guess I am kind of interested on your how you wound up in commentary in specific.
I think it was Nicholas Dioria who brought me in.
Mm,
So around the time Destiny and Anavar had this like huge thing, I was on one of these Zerka panels. Zerka used to do these panels. He'd get a whole bunch of people on, and I was on one of Zerka's panels, and Anavar was on there, and she was like basically calling Destiny an abuser, saying all sorts of stuff about him. And I think I was the only person on that panel who was like pushing back. Um, and then, and that gate got me like a lot of cred, I guess, with a lot of different people because I was like the only person on that panel who was like, wait a minute, guys, let's pump the brakes here. Um, and and so yeah, like a lot of people were watching that. Then the next day there was Zerka and what's his name? Haas. They were both like trying to convince me to take the VOD down or whatever. And I don't know, they were trying to intimidate me, and I told them to go fuck themselves. And then that got me a whole lot of cred too. And so I think Nicholas Diorio had like watched that whole interaction, and his audience had really liked me at that point. And then him and I kind of like connected because I was kind of like trying to boot up some panel shows myself, and I invited him on to a couple. And then he started bringing me into the commentary side, and I became friends with Bo Blacks um, and Edwin, and half of the people I became friends with have now fallen out of commentary.
I
So
was gonna say,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, question: did Bo Blacks win the debate with Destiny?
Um, I think so. I think so. But also, so yeah, I do think so. I think Bo Blacks is one of these people where like Destiny has a conversation with him, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
like everybody's like, oh my god, he was destroyed, you know.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that he
yeah,
did well. So.
I agree. I mean, but again, like I said, I can watch very little of Destiny,
Hmm.
um, because he makes good points most of the time. I don't, but again, I don't agree with all this stuff, and he talks too fast.
Hmm.
I have to slow his videos down just so I can pick up what he's saying a lot of
That is
times.
so ironic coming from you. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know. I talk slow. Yeah, whatever. Get over it. But no,
Okay,
I just
I'm a slow talker as well. So
yeah. That's why a lot of times when
I
people come back and watch my VODs, they tell me they got to put like a 1.5 or 1.75 because I talk
I
so
watch you on
slow.
2 times
Well,
speed. If I'm watching playback, it's on 2 times. Like, all right.
honestly I'm jealous of people who can speak really fast. I wish I could, and I just can't.
To be
yeah,
fair, I watch everything on 2 times speed, so it's
yeah,
like, I'm kind of used to it, I guess.
yeah. But you drink 20 Monster Energy drinks a day, so
I've
your
only
brain
had
is.
one today. I've only had one today, I'll have you know.
Oh God, your synapses are probably melting down right now because of it
This is
too.
actually this is actually how Beckett got brought into the fold, right? I saw one time on stream that he was drinking the exact kind of monster I like, and
Yeah,
so immediately just like, yeah, this guy's obviously cool. So
cool. All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to? I mean, of course, without a doubt, we'll put links to all your channels and your social medias and stuff in the description of the video when I put it up. But anyway, I want to thank you. You've been very very gracious, and I appreciate your time today. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get out of here, Stardust?
No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I know that, on first introduction, I can come off as, somewhat abrasive. A little bit of that is for show. I'm trying to expand also beyond like the debate sphere and politics sphere. So yeah, I do appreciate you having me on and,
Hey, no
having a
problem.
conversation with me.
No
So
problem.
yeah,
Well, you have a great day, and
you too.
yeah, and again, thank you.